I live in a city that always felt full of promise, in a condo that I thought was our forever home with my husband, Mark. As a marketing manager for a successful lifestyle brand, I build stories for a living, but I never imagined my own story would become a cautionary tale. It's funny how the life you meticulously plan can be demolished in a single, heart-stopping moment. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. Our life, or so I believed, was the picture of modern success. For 8 years, Mark and I had been a team. We met in the chaotic final year of college, two ambitious souls with perfectly aligned 5-year plans. We married at 26, bought our first home at 28, and were ticking off life's major milestones with a satisfying rhythm. Our condo, with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, was my sanctuary. Every piece of furniture, every framed photo on the wall, was a testament to the life we were building together. The largest photo, a candid shot from our honeymoon in Italy, showed us laughing, gelato in hand, without a single care in the world. I used to look at that photo and feel a warmth spread through my chest. Now it just feels like a monument to a lie. Mark worked as a financial analyst at Sterling Westwood, a high-pressure investment firm where long hours were the norm. I respected his drive. It matched my own. My role as a marketing manager was equally demanding, but we always made time for each other. We had our rituals: Sunday morning coffee at our favorite local cafe, Wednesday night takeout and a movie, and the unspoken promise to always have dinner together, no matter how late one of us worked. We were, in every sense of the word, a power couple. Our friends saw us as the goal, stable, successful, and deeply in love. I believed it, too. I genuinely believed every single word of the story we told the world. The week it all fell apart began with fantastic news. Mark called me on Tuesday afternoon, his voice buzzing with an energy I hadn't heard in months. "You are looking at Sterling, Westwood's newest senior analyst," he'd announced. The promotion, he'd been working tirelessly for it, putting in 70-hour weeks, sacrificing weekends, and pouring every ounce of himself into his work. I was immensely proud. This promotion wasn't just a title change. It came with a significant raise, enough to finally start our next chapter. Fund, the one we'd earmarked for a bigger house in the suburbs for the family we planned to start. "That's incredible, Mark. We have to celebrate." I told him, my mind already racing with ideas. "Absolutely," he said, though his voice was a bit distracted. "But things are going to be insane for a bit. My boss, Emily, wants me to shadow her on the big quarterly report. It's a huge opportunity. I might be pulling some all-nighters this week." Emily Carter, the senior vice president. Mark spoke of her with a mixture of awe and intimidation. She was a legend at the firm, known for her sharp mind and ruthless business acumen. I'd met her once or twice at stiff company holiday parties. She was immaculate, dressed in sharp power suits with an air of authority that could silence a room. She was also beautiful in a severe, untouchable way. I never gave it a second thought. She was his boss, a powerful mentor. "Nothing more, of course, I understand," I said, my supportive wife programming kicking in. "You focus on work, but we are celebrating this weekend." He agreed, and we hung up, but I couldn't wait. He deserved to feel special right now. A plan began to form in my mind. On Thursday, I would surprise him. I'd leave work early, pick up a bottle of the expensive champagne we'd been saving, and cook his favorite meal, steak with a red wine reduction sauce. I imagined the look on his face when he walked in, exhausted from a long week, to the smell of a home-cooked meal and me waiting to toast his success. It was the perfect plan, a small, intimate gesture to honor the milestone we, as a team, had achieved. On Thursday morning, I sent him a simple text, "Thinking of you, can't wait for the weekend, Zoxo." He replied almost instantly with a heart emoji, just a simple, stupid heart emoji. It's nauseating to think about it now, how easily I was fooled, how I spent my day dreaming of our celebration while he was living a completely different life. Thursday arrived with a crisp autumn chill in the air. I spent the day buzzing with excitement, barely able to focus on my marketing campaigns. I ducked out of the office an hour early, a rare indulgence, and headed straight for the gourmet market near our condo. I bought 2 of the best cuts of filet mignon, a bunch of fresh asparagus, and the ridiculously overpriced bottle of champagne we'd once pointed at in a wine shop, promising to buy it for a truly special occasion. This was it. Back home, I put on some soft jazz, lit a few candles, and got to work in the kitchen. The sun began to set, painting the city skyline in hues of orange and purple through our massive windows. Everything was perfect. At 7:30 p.m., I sent Mark a text, just checking in. Hope the report is going well. Don't work too hard. Love you. An hour passed, no reply. That wasn't entirely unusual. When he was deep in a project, he often lost track of his phone. At 8:30 p.m., I tried calling. It went straight to voicemail. A tiny knot of worry began to form in my stomach. Was he okay? Had something happened? I told myself I was being silly. He was at the office, a building with 24/7 security. He was fine. He was just busy being the new senior analyst. By 9:30 p.m., the steaks were cooked and resting. The sauce was simmering, and the asparagus was getting cold. The knot in my stomach was now a heavy stone. This wasn't like him. Even on his busiest nights, he'd find a second to text back, swamped. T-tile. I called his desk line, no answer. I called his cell again, voicemail. My best friend, Jessica, must have sensed my anxiety. She texted me, wine night debrief, how's the new senior analyst? I replied, explaining my surprise dinner plan and the fact that Mark was MIA. She, ever the pragmatist, offered a simple solution. He probably just forgot to charge his phone. Why don't you just take a cab to his office and surprise him there? Bring him a coffee. He'll love it. It was a brilliant idea. The worry would be gone, and my surprise would still work, just in a different location. I packed a small meal for him in a container, poured some coffee into a thermos, and called a rideshare. The drive to the financial district was quiet. The city lights blurred past the window as I rehearsed my cheerful entrance. When I arrived at the towering glass skyscraper that housed Sterling, Westwood, the lobby was nearly empty, save for a lone security guard. I smiled and explained that I was dropping something off for my husband, Mark, on the 45th floor. The guard, a kind-faced older man named Arthur, whom I recognized from holiday parties, nodded. His access card should still work, Mrs. Johnson. He came in this morning, but I haven't seen him leave. The elevator ride up felt strangely long. The 45th floor was dead silent. The motion-activated lights flickered on as I walked down the plushly carpeted hallway, my heels sinking into the pile. Mark's cubicle was empty. His monitor was off, his chair neatly pushed in. My heart started to pound. Arthur said he hadn't left. Where could he be? Then I remembered him mentioning Emily Carter's office. He said he was shadowing her. Her office was at the end of the hall, a corner suite with a heavy oak door. As I approached, I heard something. It was faint at first, but unmistakable. Laughter. A woman's low, throaty laugh, followed by Mark's deeper, familiar chuckle. Relief washed over me. He was just in a meeting with his boss. I felt foolish for worrying. I walked to the door, raising my hand to knock, but I paused, my knuckles hovering just inches from the wood. Something felt wrong. The laughter didn't sound professional. It was intimate, familiar. Then I heard Emily's voice, no longer the sharp, commanding tone I remembered, but a soft, sultry murmur. You earned that bonus in more ways than one. Mark's reply was muffled, but I heard my own name. Sarah thinks I'm. The rest was lost. My blood ran cold. I pressed my ear gently against the door. My breath caught in my throat. I could hear rustling, a soft sigh. And then, clear as day, I heard my husband's voice, stripped of all pretense, raw and unfamiliar. She has no idea, he said. She's at home, probably making plans for our future. Emily laughed again, a sound that was no longer just laughter, but a cruel, mocking melody. And what about our future, this little arrangement? It's working out quite well for us, don't you think? I couldn't breathe. The thermos and food container slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the floor. The sound was deafening in the silent hallway. Inside the office, the voices stopped abruptly. I heard a frantic whisper, then footsteps approaching the door. I didn't wait. I turned and ran. I fled past the empty desks, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would break through. I didn't wait for the elevator. I burst through the emergency exit and scrambled down flight after flight of cold, concrete stairs, the sound of my own choked sobs echoing in the stairwell. I didn't stop until I was out on the street, gasping for the cold night air, the perfect life I had so carefully curated shattering into a million irreparable pieces around me. The celebration was over before it ever had a chance to begin. The journey home was a blur. I stumbled into our condo. My condo, I corrected myself, the thought a sharp, painful jab. And the scent of the uneaten steak and cold asparagus hit me like a physical blow. I slid down the kitchen wall, my back against the cold cabinets, and finally let out the guttural, agonizing scream that had been trapped in my chest. The beautiful life displayed in the frames on our walls mocked me. The laughing couple in Italy were strangers, actors in a play where I was the only one who didn't know the script. Mark came home 2 hours later. By then, I had moved to the couch, wrapped in a blanket, my tears dried into salty tracks on my cheeks. I had turned off all the lights except for one dim lamp in the corner. He walked in, humming, and flicked on the main light. He stopped short when he saw me. His smile faltered. "Sarah, what's wrong? Why are you sitting in the dark?" He saw the ruined dinner on the counter, the unpopped champagne. "Oh, honey, what is all this? You didn't have to do this." The casual, easy deception in his voice was staggering. He was looking me right in the eye, feigning loving concern, while the sound of his boss's laughter was still ringing in my ears. The man I had loved for 8 years was a complete stranger. "My phone died," he said, holding it up as proof. Battery just gave out. Emily and I were grinding on the quarterly projections. I completely lost track of time. I am so sorry. Every word was a perfectly crafted lie, delivered with the confidence of a seasoned performer. I didn't explode, I didn't scream or throw things. A strange, icy calm settled over me. It was the calm of pure, unadulterated shock. My mind was protecting itself, shutting down the emotional floodgates so the logical part could process the sheer scale of the betrayal. "It's fine," I heard myself say, my voice flat and distant. "I was just worried. I'm going to bed." I walked to our bedroom without another word, leaving him standing in the brightly lit living room, amidst the wreckage of my planned celebration. I locked the door, something I had never done before, and crawled into bed, pulling the covers up to my chin. I didn't sleep. I lay there, rigid, listening to him moving around the apartment. He knocked on the bedroom door once. "Sarah, are you okay?" I didn't answer. After a few minutes, I heard him settle onto the couch. The next morning, I was up before sunrise. I showered and dressed for work in silence. When I walked out, he was asleep on the sofa, his mouth slightly open, looking disgustingly peaceful. A wave of nausea washed over me. I left without waking him. At work, I was an automaton, going through the motions of meetings and emails, my mind a million miles away. I called Jessica and asked her to meet me for lunch, my voice barely a whisper. When I saw her at the cafe, her cheerful smile faded the moment she saw my face. "Sarah, what happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." The story came tumbling out, the surprise, the silence, the trip to his office, the voices through the door. I told her everything, the words catching in my throat. She listened without interruption, her expression hardening from concern to pure fury. That absolute piece of garbage. She seethed when I finished. And Emily Carter, of course, I never liked her. She always had this predatory look in her eyes. Jessica grabbed my hand across the table. "Okay, we need a plan. First, you need proof, hard proof. What he said and what you heard is damning, but he'll deny it. He'll call you crazy, say you misunderstood. We need something undeniable. She was right. My word against his and his powerful bosses. I wouldn't stand a chance. He would gaslight me into oblivion, and I, the heartbroken, emotional wife, would be painted as hysterical. That evening, I went home with a new, terrifying purpose. Mark was overly attentive, trying to make up for the night before. He brought me flowers, my favorite kind, and suggested we go out for a nice dinner. To make up for your ruined surprise, he said with a smile that made my skin crawl. I agreed, playing the part of the forgiving wife. The entire dinner was an exercise in self-control. I smiled, I laughed, I asked about his day, all while studying him, looking for the cracks in his perfect facade. The first crack appeared when he left his phone on the table while he went to the restroom. My hands trembled as I picked it up. His password was our anniversary. The irony was sickening. I quickly opened his messages. The thread with Emily Carter was there, but it was clean, too clean. Just professional messages about meetings and deadlines. He was smart. He was covering his tracks, but he wasn't smart enough. People like Mark, people who lead double lives, always get sloppy. They get arrogant. I didn't have much time, so I checked his sync devices. Our family iPad, the one we used for recipes and streaming movies, was in my purse. I had brought it to work to finish a presentation. While he was gone, I opened the messaging app on the iPad, and there it was, a deleted thread. He had deleted the messages from his phone, but the cloud hadn't caught up yet. The iMessage app on the iPad was still showing the ghost of his conversation with Emily. The messages were chilling. They weren't just about an affair, they were about us. "Emily, is she still planning that big celebration for you? It's almost pathetic. Mark, she's trying, it's fine, it keeps her busy." Besides, her being happy makes things easier for us. Emily, just make sure she stays happy until after the quarterly call. We can't afford any drama right now. Your promotion was just the beginning. Mark, don't worry. She has no idea. She trusts me completely. The words "trusts me completely" swam before my eyes. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was using me. He was using my trust, my support, my happiness as a cover, a tool to make his life more convenient while he built another one with her. And what did she mean? The promotion was just the beginning. What couldn't they afford drama over? The betrayal was deeper than I could have ever imagined. It wasn't just a matter of the heart. Something else was going on, and I was standing right in the middle of it, completely blind. Mark returned to the table, smiling, oblivious. I smiled back, a cold, hard knot of resolve tightening in my gut. He thought I had no idea. He was about to find out just how wrong he was. The next few weeks were the most difficult of my life. I became a ghost in my own home, a phantom playing the part of a loving wife. I learned to smile when I wanted to scream, to kiss him good morning when the sight of him made me physically ill. Every "I love you" he uttered was a dagger, and every touch felt like a violation. But I endured it. I had to. Jessica was my rock, my late-night co-conspirator. We'd speak in hushed tones over the phone after Mark had fallen asleep, piecing together the puzzle of his deception. "It's bigger than an affair, Jess," I said one night, pacing my home office like a caged animal. That message from Emily, "We can't afford any drama right now." It sounds like they're working on something together, something they don't want anyone to know about. Sterling, Westwood is a publicly traded company. Jessica mused, the sound of her keyboard clicking softly in the background. Any major project or deal would have to be disclosed, unless it's not exactly legal. Her words sent a chill down my spine. Mark had always been ambitious, but I never thought he was dishonest. Yet, the man sleeping in the next room was a stranger, capable of anything. I had to dig deeper. I needed more than just incriminating text messages. I needed to understand the full scope of what they were doing. My investigation started with our finances. We had a joint account for household expenses, but we also kept separate personal accounts. I had access to all the statements online. On the surface, everything looked normal. His paycheck, our mortgage payments, utility bills. But Mark was meticulous, almost to a fault. He had spreadsheets for everything. I found his personal finance tracker on our shared home computer, buried in a folder innocuously labeled Household Docs. It took me 3 nights of waiting until he was sound asleep before I finally broke his password. It wasn't our anniversary this time. It was Emily's birthday. The discovery felt like another small, sharp cut. Inside the spreadsheet, I found what I was looking for. There was a separate tab, password, protected again, labeled discretionary. After 24 failed attempts, I tried the name of the high-end hotel chain where Sterling, West would always put up their top clients, OmniLux 2025. Their top clients, OmniLux 2025. It opened. My breath hitched. It was a ledger of expenses, paid from a credit card I didn't recognize. There were charges for lavish dinners at restaurants I'd never heard of, weekend trips to boutique hotels in the countryside, and jewelry purchases from Tiffany & Co. The dates corresponded with all the times he'd claimed to be working late or away on business trips. But it was the other entries that truly caught my eye. There were a series of large, recurring payments labeled consulting fees, EC. Emily Carter, he was paying her thousands of dollars every month. Why would he be paying his boss a consulting fee from a secret credit card? It didn't make sense until I referenced the dates of those payments with another set of transactions. These were large deposits into the same secret account, labeled with cryptic acronyms I didn't recognize, FRP, Gentech, Solera. I Googled them. They were all small to mid-cap tech and renewable energy companies. I went back further in the statements and found that Mark had made significant stock purchases in these same companies weeks before the deposits came in. Then I searched Sterling, Westwood's recent activity. In the past 6 months, the firm had initiated major acquisitions or investments in all 3 companies, causing their stock prices to soar. The picture snapped into focus with horrifying clarity. This wasn't just an affair. It was insider trading. Emily, as senior VP, had access to confidential information about which companies Sterling, Westwood was planning to target. She was feeding this information to Mark. He was using his secret account to buy up stock in those companies before the news went public. After the acquisition, the stock value would skyrocket, and he would sell, making a massive profit. The consulting fees were his way of kicking a portion of the illegal earnings back to Emily. His promotion wasn't a reward for hard work. It was a bribe. It was hush money to bring him deeper into her scheme and ensure his loyalty. My anger was quickly replaced by a cold, terrifying fear. These weren't just two people having an affair, they were criminals. They were building an empire on lies and illegal trades, and my entire life, my home, our joint savings, it was all entangled in their web. My support, my stable home life, was the perfect cover for him. No one would suspect the happily married family man. I started documenting everything. I took screenshots of the text messages from the iPad. I downloaded the secret spreadsheets and the credit card statements onto a secure, encrypted flash drive. I created a timeline, meticulously linking every hotel stay, every gift, every stock purchase, and every secret payment to Emily. The evidence was damning, a comprehensive blueprint of their entire operation. One evening, while I was compiling the evidence, Mark came into the home office. I slammed my laptop shut, my heart leaping into my throat. Working late, he asked, leaning against the doorframe with that easy smile I now despised. Just finishing up a campaign proposal, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He walked over and kissed the top of my head. Don't work too hard. The quarterly investors' call is next week. Once that's over, things will calm down. I was thinking we could finally take that trip to Hawaii we've been talking about. The quarterly investors' call. The event Emily had mentioned in her text, the deadline by which they couldn't afford any drama. He was dangling our future in front of me, a future built on money they had stolen while planning my replacement. He wasn't just going to leave me, he was going to leave me with nothing, potentially implicated in his crimes. That was the moment my sadness and fear finally burned away, leaving behind something new. Something hard and sharp. It was pure, unadulterated rage. He wanted to wait until after the investors' call. Fine, we would wait. He and Emily had built their world in the shadows, confident in their secrecy. I decided, in that instant, that I was going to be the one who dragged it all into the light. And their most important event of the year seemed like the perfect stage. With the quarterly investors' call as my deadline, my grief morphed into a laser-focused mission. I was no longer a victim, I was an architect. I spent every spare moment planning, my mind working with the same strategic precision I applied to my most complex marketing campaigns. This would be my masterpiece. The product was justice, and the launch event would be Mark and Emily's public humiliation. My first call was to Jessica, but this time it wasn't for emotional support. I laid out the entire insider trading scheme for her. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Sarah, she finally said, her voice grave, This is serious, like federal crime serious. You are playing with fire. These people could ruin you if this goes wrong. They've already ruined me, Jess. I replied, my voice devoid of any tremor. The only thing left to do is make sure they can't do it to anyone else, and that they pay for what they did to me. Jessica, ever loyal, shifted from concerned friend to tactical ally. Okay, if you're going to do this, we do it right. No mistakes. We need to be surgical. Your evidence is strong, but the delivery has to be flawless. Our plan had 2 phases. Phase 1 was about securing my own future. I couldn't blow up my life without a safety net. Following Jessica's discreet advice, I met with a top divorce lawyer she recommended. I didn't file anything yet, but I got my ducks in a row. I quietly moved half the money from our joint savings account into a new personal account in my name only. It was money I had earned, and I wasn't going to let it become collateral damage in Mark's implosion. I also gathered all my essential documents, my passport, birth certificate, social security card, and stored them in a safe deposit box. I was systematically disentangling my life from his, one invisible thread at a time. Phase 2 was the revenge plot. The investors' call was sterling. Westwood's biggest event of the quarter. It was a live webcast broadcast to hundreds of investors, analysts, and financial journalists. The CEO would speak, and then Emily, as senior VP of her division, would present the quarterly performance data. Mark, as her new star senior analyst, would be by her side, running the presentation slides. It was their moment to shine, the culmination of their corrupt partnership. My role in their downfall would be that of a ghost in the machine. A few days before the call, I orchestrated a moment of carefully planned carelessness. Mark was working from home, his company laptop open on the kitchen table. I accidentally spilled a glass of water nearby, splashing the keyboard. I was profusely apologetic, dabbing at it with a towel, my heart racing. "Oh my God, Mark, I am so sorry. Is it okay?" He was annoyed but ultimately dismissive. "It's fine, it seems to be working, but it's feeling a little sticky. I'll have to take it to ID tomorrow to get it cleaned." It was exactly what I wanted. The next morning, he dropped his laptop off with his company's IT department. What he didn't know was that my cousin, Alex, was a junior technician in that very department. I had called Alex a week prior, feeding him a watered-down but compelling story about Mark having an affair and me needing to find proof for the divorce. It wasn't the whole truth, but it was enough. Alex, who had always been protective of me, agreed to help. He felt guilty for even doing it, but I assured him it was just about installing a simple piece of software. While the laptop was being cleaned, Alex installed a piece of remote access software, the kind IT uses for troubleshooting. It was completely undetectable, hidden among the standard corporate security programs. When Mark got his laptop back that afternoon, he was none the wiser. I now had a back door to his entire digital life. That night, after he fell asleep, I logged on. It felt like stepping through a portal into a secret world. I could see his desktop, his files, his emails, everything. I spent hours navigating his system, my actions invisible to him. I found the master folder for the investors' call presentation. It was a polished professional PowerPoint deck filled with charts and projections. My plan was simple but devastating. I wasn't just going to expose the affair, I was going to expose their crimes using their own platform. I created 5 new slides. They were designed to look exactly like the rest of the Sterling Westwood presentation, using the same corporate template, fonts, and color scheme. The first new slide was titled, Projected Growth vs. Unreported Liabilities. It featured a picture of Mark and Emily, a candid shot from one of their secret weekend getaways that I'd found buried in a hidden folder on his hard drive. They were clinking champagne glasses on a hotel balcony, looking every bit the happy couple. The next slide was a screenshot of their incriminating text messages, the ones about keeping me happy until after the call. The third slide was a simplified flowchart I designed with Jessica's help, visually explaining the insider trading scheme. It showed Emily's position, the flow of information to Mark, the secret bank account, and the kickbacks disguised as consulting fees. The fourth slide was a direct screenshot of the secret ledger from his spreadsheet, highlighting the payments to Eck and the jewelry purchases. The final slide was simple. It just contained 2 email addresses. One was for the Securities and Exchange Commission's anonymous tip line. The other was for the lead financial crimes reporter at the Wall Street Journal, a contact I'd found after hours of research. I saved the modified presentation file on his desktop with a nearly identical name, just adding the word final to the end. I knew from years of watching him work that in the rush before a big presentation, he would almost certainly open the one labeled final. The stage was set. The trap was laid. All I had to do was wait for the show to begin. The night before the call, Mark was buzzing with nervous energy. He practiced his part of the presentation for me, standing in our living room, clicking through the real slides. "You're going to be brilliant," I told him, looking him straight in the eye, my expression a perfect mask of wifely pride. "Just make sure you open the final version tomorrow. You don't want any mistakes." He smiled, completely oblivious. "Don't worry," he said. "It's going to be perfect." I knew he was right. It was. The morning of the investors' call, I woke up feeling a surreal sense of calm. The storm that had been raging inside me for weeks had finally subsided, leaving a quiet, focused resolve in its wake. Mark was a bundle of nerves and arrogance. He put on his best suit, a tailored navy one I had bought him for his birthday last year. As he straightened his tie in the mirror, he caught my eye in the reflection. "Big day," he said, trying to sound casual. "Wish me luck." "You don't need luck, Mark," I said, my voice even. "You'll get exactly what you deserve." He took it as a compliment, gave me a quick, distracted kiss on the cheek, and left. The moment the door clicked shut, my own operations began. I logged into the live webcast of the investors' call from my home office, my heart beginning a slow, heavy drumbeat against my ribs. I had a second laptop open to my remote access software, giving me a live view of Mark's desktop. I was a silent observer, a puppeteer in the wings. The call began precisely at 10:00 a.m. The CEO of Sterling, Westwood, gave his opening remarks, his voice a confident corporate drone. Then he introduced his star performer, the Senior Vice President of Strategic Investments, Emily Carter. Emily appeared on screen, seated at a long boardroom table. She looked powerful, poised, and untouchable in a sharp crimson dress. Mark was beside her, looking proud and a little nervous, his laptop open in front of him. He was in control of the presentation that was being mirrored on the main screen for all the investors to see. "Thank you, Robert," Emily began, her voice smooth as silk. "It's been an exceptional quarter for our division, driven by strategic acquisitions and robust market performance. My senior analyst, Mark Johnson, will now walk us through the key data points. This was it." On my second screen, I watched Mark's cursor move. He navigated to the folder on his desktop, and just as I had predicted, he clicked on the file named Investor Presentation Q3 Final. PPTX, the first few slides went off without a hitch. Charts and graphs filled the screen. Mark's voice grew more confident as he spoke about revenue streams and growth margins. Emily looked on with a proud, proprietary smile. They were a team, a well-oiled machine of deceit, performing for their biggest audience yet. They were on slide number 12, a dense slide about market penetration in the tech sector. The next slide, number 13, was supposed to be about future outlook. I held my breath. Mark clicked. Slide 13 loaded. But it wasn't a bar graph. It was the slide I had created, projected growth vs unreported liabilities. There, for hundreds of investors and analysts to see, was the high-resolution photo of Mark and Emily on their secret vacation, champagne glasses raised in a toast. A collective, audible gasp could be heard from others in the boardroom. Emily's face, projected in crystal-clear HD, went from a confident smile to a mask of pure, frozen horror. Her eyes darted from the screen to Mark, her mouth slightly agape. Mark stared at his laptop, his face draining of all color. He frantically tried to click to the next slide, but his hands were shaking. "Mark, what is this?" Emily hissed, her voice a venomous whisper picked up by the hot mic. But it was too late. I knew he'd be panicking, so I had a contingency. Using my remote access, I seized control of his cursor. He was trying to close the program, but I was fighting him, keeping it open. From thousands of miles away, I clicked to the next slide, slide 14. The screenshot of their text messages appeared. "Just make sure she stays happy until after the quarterly call. We can't afford any drama right now." The boardroom was in chaos. People were murmuring, pulling out their phones. The CEO, who was off camera, could be heard saying, "What in God's name is going on? Shut it down." I clicked again, slide 15, the flowchart of their insider trading scheme. The elegant, corporate, branded diagram made their complex crime insultingly easy to understand. Emily let out a small, strangled cry. She lunged for Mark's laptop, but he shoved it away from her, his face a mess of terror and confusion. Click, slide 16, the ledger, the payments to Eck, the Tiffany's receipts. It was no longer a private matter. It was a corporate conspiracy, laid bare for the entire financial world to see. The webcast technicians finally managed to cut the feed, replacing the chaotic boardroom scene with a generic Sterling Westwood logo and a message, "We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by." But the damage was done. In those 90 seconds, their world had been set on fire. I made my final move. I clicked one last time to the final slide with the SEC tip line and the journalist's email, and I took a screenshot. Then I closed my remote connection, severing my link to Mark's laptop forever. I attached the screenshot to an anonymous email account I had created weeks ago. The subject line was Sterling West. Would Q3 investor call what they didn't want you to see? I sent it to the Wall Street Journal reporter and a dozen other financial news outlets. Then I shut my laptops. I walked into my pristine, quiet living room and poured myself a glass of water, my hands perfectly steady. The phone started ringing almost immediately. It was Mark. I ignored it. It rang again and again, then came the texts, a frantic waterfall of "Sarah, what did you do?" and "Pick up the phone, we need to talk." I silenced my phone and walked over to the large photo from our honeymoon in Italy. I took it off the wall, removed the smiling picture of the two strangers, and dropped it into the trash. The silence in the apartment wasn't lonely anymore. It was peaceful. It was the sound of a battle won. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. By the afternoon, Sterling Westwood was a trending topic on social media. The Wall Street Journal broke the story first, citing a dramatic and unprecedented interruption to the investor call, and highly credible documents leaked from an anonymous source. The stock price plummeted. By the end of the day, both Mark and Emily Carter had been suspended, pending an internal investigation. By the end of the week, they were fired. The SEC had launched a formal investigation into the firm, and the story of the corporate power couple brought down by a scorned wife's PowerPoint presentation was everywhere. They had become a meme, a punchline, a cautionary tale of greed and hubris. Mark tried to contact me relentlessly for the first 48 hours. He left dozens of voicemails, swinging wildly between rage, desperation, and pathetic pleas for forgiveness. He accused me of ruining his life, as if he hadn't demolished mine first. I never responded. I had my lawyer serve him with divorce papers at the temporary motel address he was now living at. His assets were frozen as part of the federal investigation, so he couldn't fight me on the settlement. I got the condo, what was left of our legitimate savings, and my freedom. The legal battle for them was long and brutal. Faced with the mountain of evidence I had provided, they turned on each other, each trying to pin the majority of the blame on the other. It didn't work. About a year later, both pleaded guilty to multiple counts of securities fraud and conspiracy. Emily, as the mastermind and a senior VP, received a 7-year prison sentence. Mark, for his role, was sentenced to 4 years. I never saw him again after the day he left for the investor's call. I didn't attend any of the court hearings. Their fate was no longer my concern. My focus was on my own future. The first few months were about cleansing. I sold the condo. It held too many memories, and the view of the city skyline now reminded me of my frantic escape from his office building. I moved into a smaller, cozier apartment in a different part of the city, a place that was entirely my own. Jessica helped me paint the walls a warm, sunny yellow. I bought new furniture, pieces that I chose for myself without anyone else's input. I threw myself into my work, and my creativity flourished. The focus and strategic thinking I had used to plan Mark's downfall, I now channeled into my marketing campaigns. I was promoted to director of marketing within a year. I was good at my job, and for the first time, my success felt entirely my own, untangled from anyone else's ambition. Rebuilding my life wasn't about finding a new relationship or trying to erase the past. It was about rediscovering myself. I started hiking on weekends, finding peace in the quiet trails outside the bustling city. I reconnected with old friends I had drifted away from during my marriage. I traveled, not to lavish resorts, but to places I had always wanted to see, on my own terms. I went back to Italy, stood in the same spot our honeymoon photo was taken, and ate gelato by myself, laughing. It tasted better this time. The scars are still there, of course. A betrayal that deep doesn't just disappear. There are moments of lingering sadness and a quiet mistrust of the world that I have to actively fight against. But those moments are fewer and farther between. The rubble of my old life is no longer a ruin I'm trapped in. It's the foundation for the new one I have built. A life that is honest, peaceful, and mine. And from where I'm standing now, the view is better than it has ever been.